You know, that song, for me, says it all about motherhood. Because it is the unwavering desire to see our children embrace life fully and fiercely. Right? Motherhood is so much more than protect and guide them. It is to inspire them to live their best lives. And so that is what we're celebrating today. All of those places where we have been inspired to live our best lives through that beautiful mothering energy. And so I would love to invite all of those moms in the room. If you're a traditional mom, if you're uniquely mom by your definition, I want you to stand. And online, please rise. And we're going to celebrate everyone. We had a few folks send in some pictures of moms that we're going to enjoy together. Some familiar faces, some new faces. And we can just feel that love energy. To all the moms. Here in the sanctuary, you can stop by our mom's tree. We decorated a bunch of pictures of moms in the tree. We just are very creative that way. And if you were here last week, or if you read our newsletter, you know that we are talking about boundaries today, which I think it's fabulous to talk about boundaries on Mother's Day. And in order to help me with this talk, Boundaries Keeper, Nurturing Healthy Relationships, I invited with Audrey and Reverend Lori and the children to come up onto the platform, and we're going to hear a story. Bring him up. Don't you just love the new platform, everyone? I mean, come on, this is so wonderful. All right.
Good morning. So today I'm going to read The Fence of Wisdom, and I just ask that everyone listens with an open heart. So one afternoon, a wise mother invited her child into their backyard, where a wooden fence stretched around the lush garden. The air was thick with the scent of blooming jasmine, and the sun filtered warmly through the leaves of an old oak tree. "Take a look around," the mother said gently. "What do you see?" The child studied the fence, then the garden within. "A fence that keeps things out," they answered. The mother nodded and smiled. "Yes, it does. It keeps wandering feet from trampling the flowers. It keeps the vegetables safe from hungry animals, and it shields our space from harm." She knelt down beside her child and traced her fingers over the fence's sturdy surface. "But tell me, does this fence keep the garden locked in? Do the flowers still feel trapped?" The child frowned, thinking. He said, "No, the flowers are safe. They can grow because the fence keeps them protected." The mother's eyes twinkled. "That's right. This fence doesn't imprison. It creates a space where things can flourish. And boundaries, they work the same way. They don't keep people out. They simply define the space where love, respect, and kindness can grow freely. The child looked around with new understandings. So boundaries aren't about keeping people out. They're about making sure that we can grow in a way that's good for us. The mother wrapped her arm around the child's shoulder and nodded. Exactly, my love. When we set boundaries, we aren't building walls. We are tending the garden of our hearts and making sure that it has room and care that it needs to thrive. And that's the end.
Much. Thank you, thank you. And now you all going back over there and complete your, oh, big step. Let's have, all right. Thank you. NVC, Youth and Family Ministry. Boundaries, right? I don't know about you, but boundaries have played an important part in my life, mostly because I didn't quite understand them. And when I was aware of that I didn't have healthy boundaries, I went the opposite way. You know, I said, here's the line in the sand. No, further. That's it. I'm done. Not healthy either. And so this talk today, I want to bring in this imagery of a healthy garden. A healthy garden, because a healthy garden has, it has form, but it also has availability to flow. It has structure, and it has areas where some unexpected joy can flourish in form of a seed that landed there. I don't know where you are on your individual journey with boundaries. But perhaps we can take a moment, and I invite you to think about somebody who you would say, oh, there's somebody who has healthy boundaries. Who has healthy boundaries. And so maybe a good way to approaching is to think about what are some of the characteristics that we would see in somebody who has healthy boundaries. We would recognize that they honor their own needs without guilt. Without guilt. A simple awareness of this is what I need, and to communicate that in a loving, kind, and confident way. Somebody with healthy boundaries, they welcome connection without overextending themselves. And we all can feel into that, right? There's a moment where we have a connection with someone and it flows, and some of us have the tendency to overdo it, and then we will lose what we refer to as healthy boundaries. And we can always tell because we get exhausted and we get a little irritable. Not me, I heard about that. Here's another aspect of individuals who have healthy boundaries. They allow others to have their own journey. And I think it's so pertinent that we are speaking about boundaries on Mother's Day, because that I see and I hear and I experience where boundaries sometimes get a little shaky, right? Because we do want the very best for our children. And we can look at our moms. I can look at my mom, and I know she wants the very best for me. She always wanted the very best for me. the behavior that she communicated that with could have been improved. But at the very center, it is this, I see the moms laughing, we know what we're talking about, right? And yet, that's at the very center of every mom's heart, to want the very, very best. So to allow others to have their journey, to allow our kids to have their journey, even if we would have gone about it in a different way, that is a sign of having healthy boundaries. And then finally, individuals who have healthy boundaries, rather than avoiding difficult conversation, they engage in them with integrity, with clarity, and with respect. I love those definitions. I wanted to share on Friday evening, I went to see a speaker. She is an ordained Lutheran minister. Her name is Nadia Bolz-Weber, and she drew a crowd of about 450, 500 people in this big church. And she did her thing. There was singing. She did a meet and greet. And then she preached. And then at the end, she said, I gave you all that I have. I have no capacity to have any more one-on-one interaction. So I am going to leave after this last song. Please don't approach me. And then she said, ooh, that was good for healthy boundaries. And I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. We all knew where she was, and she did give everything she had. She left everything on that platform. And so that is an example for healthy boundaries that is kind, that is clear, that lets everyone know this is how we can be with one another. Of course, we cannot talk about boundaries without bringing in Brené Brown, right? That's who I always think about when we talk about boundaries. She says, daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even if we risk disappointing others. Think about that. The courage to love ourselves because we know what it is that we need. We know when we are done, when we have given all that we have. Even if it disappoints the person that comes with their needs. And that is where healthy boundaries and practicing healthy boundaries is so important. Because what happens when I am in need and I'm seeking out this person, unbeknownst to me, they have just set a boundary that they couldn't give anymore, and here I come with my need, with my drama, with my whatever it is, with my pain, and they say, no. That is why it's so important that we all get better and better in communicating lovingly our healthy boundaries. Because at that point, the individual is doing exactly what healthy boundaries would have that person do, right? Recognizing I'm done, I cannot give any more. And then when somebody comes, I have to stand in that, even though I know I will disappoint that person. And for me in this example that I have approached this individual, I have to know so clearly in my own heart that this is not a reflection on me. And that is where we often get into a little bit of a kerfuffle. Right? We have a need, we have somebody that we go to, and they are not able to meet that need. And so the invitation is really for us to think about this and to ask ourselves, can I, in those moments, remind myself, oh, she's probably just having her boundary. And how different that would be than to take it personally. Of course, that reflects back to those 4 agreements, right? That we often read about, the 4 agreements, and one of them is don't take don't take anything personally. When we teach and talk about boundaries, my sincere hope is that we all get better at it. And my sincere hope is that I hear a lot of no's when I reach out and ask somebody something. When that doesn't work with what they want to do, please say no. Because that's what a boundary really is, right? It is the realization that I love myself so much, and although Reverend Karen just asked me to do something, if it's not what is mine to do, say no. Yes? Oh, I thought you guys would say no. Yes, yes. Permission for all of us to really lean into healthy boundaries. And I'm a good example. No wonder I'm speaking about boundaries. I have become very good. When I returned from sabbatical last year, I said that I will take August off, and it's wonderful. Everything we plan, it's easy. We all know I will not physically be here in August. I feel really good about that. That's on my good job, Karen column. I have a check mark on that one. And then over here is my Fridays off. I work Saturday to Thursday, and on Fridays is my day off. And I cannot tell you how many phone calls and texts I get that start with, I know it's your day off, however, and then something happens, something comes, right? That's in my not so good column. Because instead of holding to my boundary there, and Tom can attest to this, I answer the text, I call, I'm there. So here's my public announcement. I am going forward on Fridays, not do that anymore. I will honor my boundary. Thank you. I'm reading this great book, Boundaries for Leaders, by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And in there it says, boundaries define us. They define what is me and what is not me. A boundary shows where I end and someone else begins, and it's leading to a sense of ownership. And that is what I was referring to. Even if I ask you to do something, if it's not yours to do, please say no. Because if we all get better and better at saying no, then our yeses become so much more valuable. Because we know when somebody says yes, they actually really mean it, and we can lean into that. Let us practice by saying an affirmation together. Come down here. I set healthy boundaries with love and respect, fostering strong and supportive relationships. Again, I set healthy boundaries with love and respect, fostering strong and supportive relationships. Yes. And that, beloveds, is also what is the call to action for this week. I invite all of us to ask ourselves, where in our life are boundaries needed? You can always identify that by realizing what drains our energy and what nourishes our soul. And so once you pinpointed that area, communicate those boundaries lovingly, with kindness and clarity, and stand firm in them. Remember, enforcing boundaries is an act of self-care. It is an act of self-care. And we all have permission to care for ourselves so much that others will feel that, and they will approach us with a different sense of respect, honoring our boundaries. And a really good way to anchor this is a prayer. And so let's go ahead and go within. I invite you to take a breath. Regardless if this talk on boundaries brought up emotions for you, great. If it's something you want to contemplate more, great. We just open our heart and mind to the one power, the one presence, the divine that is everywhere. For there is no place where God is not. As we feel that living presence, we realize that it is at the very center of our being, that there's the voice within, in the place of the Most High, in the innermost chamber. That is the voice of the divine, calling us forth to recognize that we are love, that we are grace, that we are peace, harmony, joy, abundance, that we are the I am. And so I speak a prayer of listening to that voice, listening to that calling within, listening to the permission to live our birthright. I speak this word for all people here in the sanctuary, on our online community, people who are driving by on Tatum Boulevard. For I know that love of the divine is available to each and every one. And so it is with a grateful heart that I simply place this word into universal law, the law that always says yes. So I know that we are listening in earnest. I let it go, I let it be. And together we know this truth as we say, and so it is.